So we all know that Nintendo is on the verge of just completely stomping out Palworld entirely, right? They're 100% going to stomp this company into the dirt. Alexa, Volume 3. Alexa, Volume 3. They are 100% going to stomp this company into the dirt. They are going to win this lawsuit. There is no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Palworld is completely done. And I've already laid out all the reasons why and all the reasons we have yet to learn about. But there is no denying that Palworld is just completely done. Okay, there is no recovery from this. There is no salvaging this. They are done. And the weird thing about this, though, and I do think this really needs to be brought up and talked about and studied extensively, is just how adamant people are that nothing's happening, nothing's going wrong, everything's going according to plan. Never mind the fact that we said Nintendo couldn't possibly sue Palworld a couple of months ago. Like, the fact that they're doing so now doesn't mean anything. And in fact, they failed to get their injunction, and Palworld released the game on PS5 in Japan anyway, which is just, what? It's so strange to me. The thing that really sticks out to me about the Palworld thing is just how many people seem to completely make up narratives and then present them as if they were debunked, and as an excuse to, like, rail on critics of Palworld, right? Like, this was clear very early on with the whole AI thing. People saw the Palworld models, and they were just like, oh, those are obviously plagiarized from Pokemon. Alexa, stop. Those were obviously plagiarized from Pokemon, right? But instead what happened is that people came up with this weird thing like, oh, there's a conspiracy that they used AI to make the models. Oh, but that claim has been debunked, so then the models are perfectly fine. Like, wait a minute. You're deflecting from the actual issue, right? You are not acknowledging that the mechanics, the models, the characters, a lot of the gameplay elements are straight up ripped from Pokemon and from Zelda Breath of the Wild. Like, you are not willing to acknowledge the real blatant plagiarism. And now that Nintendo is filing a lawsuit because they know that their software was straight up ripped, people are making excuses for it. Like, oh, they don't own animals, they don't own mechanics for games. Yeah, they do, when they're the exact same thing as what they use, right? Like, again, they stole critical aspects of Pokemon. Like, you can see how similar it is. Again, this is very observably obvious if you aren't a downright shill. And that is the problem right now. As just before Palworld gets completely fucked in court, the only people who are really talking about this are people who are really desperate to try and make Nintendo look bad, right? Again, we're in this weird position where we're seeing people, like, try and, like, create this narrative that, like, Nintendo is a particularly litigious company, that they're going after all of their competition using lawsuits so they can complete their evil master plan of, like, taking over the gaming industry in Japan. Like, it's like, this is, like, downright shizo, like, left-wing, just insane cope posting, right? Straight up conspiracy theory tire. Like, I'm half expecting, like, Alex Jones to come on screen like, oh man, Nintendo didn't invent Pokemon. Like, it's like, really? This is the line you're going with? That Nintendo shouldn't file lawsuits against a corporation that obviously plagiarized their work, right? Like, how out of touch are you? Like, again, this weird belief that Nintendo is going after these people for no reason, going after pirates for no reason, going after, like, Smash players for no reason. Like, it's so completely unwarranted and ridiculous. This whole deal with Palworld, this might be the most delusional Nintendo-related thing I have seen since, like, 2016, right? Like, I don't think I have seen so many people try and manufacture a narrative about Nintendo than I have since Star Fox Zero came out. Like again, to this day, you have people religiously claiming that like Zero like is a remake of Star Fox 64 and that the controls don't work. Neither of which are true, but like, oh, but Assault was the good one. No, it wasn't. Nobody likes Assault. Like if you actually played Assault, you wouldn't like it either. Like to me, look, these kind of Nintendo theories have always existed, but it's really, really weird seeing them break into the mainstream. Seeing Angry Joe try to cover them. Like Angry Joe, someone who doesn't play Pokemon, doesn't play Nintendo in general, but we're supposed to listen to him when talking about Nintendo court cases. Like, oh, they're filing these patents because they're desperate to take Palworld down. It's like, you don't know anything about this. Like, you don't know anything about the story. Like, again, one of the big copes right now, one of the really interesting things you'll notice is that people seem to think they know what patents that Nintendo is suing over, but they don't. Like that hasn't been confirmed yet. Like I don't even think they've set a court trial date yet, right? Again, I'm not sure like how the process is going to work, but how this is going to play out. But like this idea that Nintendo's patents are like superfluous and that they're like patent trolling is just obviously retarded. Like if you know anything about this at all, like it is just a giant cope. Especially when they like try and follow up with this idea that like Nintendo's scared of competition. Like, why didn't they go after Yokai Watch? Why didn't they go after Digimon? Right? Why haven't they gone over after any other company that's gotten in their way over the years? Right? Like again, you're really gonna try and like trick people into thinking this happened because Scarlet and Violet was so terrible. Like, oh, he was so glitchy, it was so awful. Pokemon hasn't evolved. Like, and yet you go for this unfinished early access game on Steam. Like again, nothing about it makes any sense, right? It's all just like a giant cope from people who desperately want like the Pokemon company to fail, who want like Nintendo to take an L, and it's just not gonna work. Like again, I think even under the hypothetical scenario that Palworld does like get to this lawsuit like unscathed, which I really don't think is gonna happen. Even under that like hypothetical scenario, they're gonna have to keep working on the game. They're gonna have to maintain a player base. They're gonna have to keep people engaged, and all the, like the things they've tossed out to try and like monetize the product. Like, oh, we want microtransactions in there. Oh, we're gonna do this. Like again, did anyone see that story where like they released that statement saying that they were considering microtransactions and then like decided against it, and like people tried to like say that was based and like tried to spin it as like they they can't monetize their product. They're like admitting that they can't make money off of this thing. Like and all the like the insane copes that people have, like, oh, Sony is gonna come in and save them. Like they have all these like pre-established deals, like they're gonna win. Like, no, they're not. Like the money is gonna dry up really quickly. It's gonna get squandered. They're gonna get buried under court fees. Like it's going to be an absolute nightmare for Pocket Pair. And honestly, like I really do think this situation is going to be something we talk about for years because like this is an example of just how desperate the Pokemon community is to like prop up anything they think could ruin Pokemon, whether it's Temtem or Yokai Watch or like I don't know, fucking fossil fighters. Like they'll do everything they can to do this thing where they'll pretend like Pokemon's stale, outdated, boring. It's not competing with modern games, even though it's like the most successful brand on the planet, right? The company knows what they're doing, right? You know, trading cards, anime, like you know, animated movies. You have like all these crazy spin-off products. Like, you really think Pokemon is going to fall off? Really? Because you memed a bunch of people into thinking that Scarlet and Violet had some weird visual glitches. Like, okay, bro, you're not gonna win. it's gonna be really interesting seeing the whole narrative fall apart. Like, I really don't think that the anti-Pokemon thing is going to last another generation. This really is just like the Gen 1er thing all over again, right? Where a bunch of older fans are bitter at Pokemon being made for little children instead of like mature adults, which is why they latch onto fucking Palworld and like my slavery, my guns. It's just a big cope. It all is just really really pathetic and really needs to be like called out for what it is, right? Like again, when have you ever heard anybody genuinely enjoying Palworld? Right? When have you ever seen anybody like play Palworld on its own merits without like immediately just trying to compare it to Pokemon? Like, oh, this is way better than Pokemon. No, it's not. If it was, you wouldn't be thinking about Pokemon at all when you were playing it.